Hi, everyone, and thanks again for joining us today. Welcome to our quarterly ProPartner briefing. My name is Carrie Tuttle, and I'll be moderating today's call. Kevin Rooney, our Vice President of America's Partner Sales, will be kicking things off for us. We have an exciting lineup of speakers for you today. Joining us today is our guest speaker, Jeff Giannetti, Veeam's Senior Vice President of America's Sales, who will share some great insight as we head into the second half of 2018. We also have John Metzger, our Vice President of Global Product Marketing, who will bring you the latest updates on our product announcements and promotions for this quarter. And to wrap up the call, we have Blake Grantham, who'll provide us an overview on how we can better work and align. If you have any questions throughout the call, please send us to the questions in the questions box, and we'll answer them if time allows. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin to get us started. Kevin?
Great. Thanks, Carrie, and welcome everybody to our call here in Q3. I know, as I always try to say at the start of all of these calls, we all have busy days and you have options of things that you could be doing with your time. And so the fact that you decided to join us, I really want to let you know that we very much appreciate it. As Carrie stated, we do have an exciting agenda that we have for today. My leader and the leader of our Americas organization, Jeff Giannetti, will be kicking us off here in a moment, and then we'll be able to go through what I think are some just unbelievable product and program announcements for each of you to hear about. And then Blake, just a little bit deeper, is we're gonna talk about how we position ourselves against a couple of key competitors, and therefore how you will need to be positioning yourself alongside Veeam as we go out and continue to win market share at an exceedingly fast rate, which has been a great ride that Veeam has been on, and it's only continued, and obviously you're the reason for it. And then we'll come back and I'll talk about a couple of things at the end of the call where we'll talk about kind of some things that are coming next, as well as an exciting partner incentive that we have in place in Q3. So you want to stick around and hear about that, because it's one that can be very, very lucrative for all of you. Jeff's going to talk really about what we saw in Q2. This is certainly a slide that tells you, how we finished in 2017. Won't be spending a great deal of time on this, but I just wanted to, your efforts in the momentum and the market share that we continue to take together have been fantastic. I want to thank you for that. Our Net Promoter Score continues to be about 3.5x the industry average in the area in which we compete. We're adding thousands of customers, thousands every month. In fact, an average of 4,000 globally each and every month, and that has continued to happen. And of course, the workloads that we are protecting continues to grow by leaps and bounds. So, the numbers are all up and to the right. It's been fantastic. And again, it starts and it all happens with you. So with that, you've heard enough from me, and you always do. I want to turn it over to the leader of our business in the Americas, Mr. Jeff Giannetti. Jeff?
Thanks, Kevin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And Kevin, I know you say the same about hearing too much from me, so I just appreciate the opportunity to be on this afternoon with all of our partners. Great opportunity to share some of the highlights from the second quarter, and then look ahead to some of the exciting things that are coming in the second half. And since I know, Kevin, you live in Pittsburgh, it's my hometown. Yesterday was the start of training camp. The Steelers are on their way to number 7 this year. And I just had to get that little plug in before we get started, and can't wait for the season to begin. Before I dive into my remarks, you see on the screen here, this is how we are organized in the Americas, essentially into multiple segments: enterprise, our commercial business, federal and SLED. We have our cloud or VCSP business, and then SMB. All of those segments are 100% channel. And as Kevin said at the outset, you all have multiple choices. You have many vendors that you can choose from. And let me join my voice with Kevin in saying thank you for partnering with Veeam, for helping us to drive to the remarkable results that we've seen over the last several quarters, and really throughout the lifetime of Veeam in the marketplace. We are absolutely devoted to the channel. I think we have a phenomenal program, but we recognize you have options, and we're grateful that you've chosen to partner with us. And so let's take a look at Veeam in the second quarter and in our first half. Once again, we saw incredibly strong growth. Our second quarter of 2018 represented the 40th straight quarter in a row of double-digit growth in the Americas. We were again at a very high growth rate. And if you look at the legacy vendors with whom Veeam competes, we're growing at a rate that is about 4 times what any of those legacy vendors are growing, partly by adding new accounts on a daily basis. But in addition to that, as John's going to take you through a little bit later in the presentation, we're adding new products, new capabilities, new innovation that's offering each of you an opportunity to go back into your existing Veeam accounts and upsell and cross-sell those opportunities with things like physical agents and Office 365 and other products that drive incremental revenue into your businesses, but also continuing to take share away from those legacy vendors. The growth in our second quarter and really throughout the whole first half was strongest in the areas where Veeam has really been focused, and that's in going up market and to driving larger deals. As we look at our deal bands across the Americas, the largest area of growth, over 70%, was in that largest deal band, that's 6 figures and above. And we saw 70% growth in those large deals. In our SLED business in particular, we saw the largest deal closed in SLED's history, and we saw the biggest quarter in the history of SLED. And we continue to see strength in what has been Veeam's success historically in mid-market and SMB. All of that is attributed as well to the efforts of all of you on the phone, making investments along with us. If I look at our investment that we've made with Corey Gunn and his team in the major national segment, that business has almost doubled year over year through the first half, and it's driving some of these very large opportunities. But we're seeing it across all segments, and you'll continue to see us invest across all segments of the business. One of the things that's driving that growth is there are legacy vendors that are 1, 2, 3 in the market in most cases. There are names that you're familiar with. I'm not going to mention them here, but many of them have seen growth stop or in some cases contract. And what we're seeing in the marketplace is an urgency among enterprises of all sizes, large to small, that are looking for alternatives to those legacy vendors and increasingly switching them out for vendors that they consider to be innovative, simpler to use, lower cost, and continue to innovate with technology that helps them drive cost out of their organization and simplify data protection. Earlier this year, there was a person who joined Veeam by the name of Dave Russell. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should be. Dave worked for Gartner before he came to Veeam, and we're going to get you to hear this story, but it's incredible. He is essentially considered the godfather of data protection. He wrote the Magic Quadrant for Veeam and reached a point in his career where he decided rather than report on data protection, he was actually going to pick one of the vendors that is going to drive this move from legacy to the innovative, disruptive technology in this space. He looked across all of the alternatives in the market, and he selected Veeam. And we're going to tee that up for you in the future and allow Dave to tell why he picked Veeam. But what this represents to all of you on the phone is a tremendous opportunity to take a revenue source from those legacy vendors that has really come to a grinding halt and partner with the vendor that we're seeing increasingly is being selected to replace those legacy vendors, and that's Veeam. To help you do that and to make it more complete solutions for all of our joint clients, Veeam is building partnerships with some of your largest partners. Over the last 12 months, we've announced resale agreements with HPE, with Cisco, and with NetApp. And as I think about the partners of Veeam, you're our partners, but those three are often your largest partners as well. And it allows you to consolidate a revenue source in both data protection and the hardware as a target for that data and drive seamless solutions to your clients and larger, more gross profit for each of you. We also recently announced support for the Nutanix operating system as well. So you'll see further integration there. And it just makes the story to your clients that much more complete and creates a greater opportunity for you. I'm a huge sports fan, in particular college sports, and there's a team in Tulane that's called the Green Wave. Well, I'm sure if any of you have attended Veeam events, if you've been to VMworld, VeeamON, you know that we love to paint things green. And the way I view Veeam, and with the growth we're seeing, the rate of volume of new customers, the fact that 90% of our customers renew and stay with us, the fact that I've been here for now almost a year and a half and I'm still waiting for my support escalation. Veeam is like a green wave rolling over the Americas, driving high growth, high revenue, and tremendous opportunity for each of you. And we're just, as part of this call, I just want to invite you to ride that wave with us. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity to see a very lucrative return if you make the investment into Veeam. With that, let's take a look at some of the things that are second half. So first of all, as I said, we are segmented across the Americas and we continue to invest in all segments. We're bringing in tremendous people over the last 24 months globally, with much of this investment focused in the Americas. Veeam has hired over 2,000 people, and we continue to bring in tremendous resource to help you. In the last year, we created specifically a technical partner manager organization where we now have a group of systems engineers, some of the best and brightest in our company, who wake up every day and their sole mission is to enable each of you to understand Veeam's value proposition, to understand how we compete in the marketplace, and the unique innovation and value that we're bringing to our clients. So that investment will continue, and you'll see particular investment in the second half in places like the mid-market and SMB, where we continue to believe there is a massive opportunity to own that space as Veeam has historically. In addition to that, you're going to hear, and I can't give them out today, but I want to set some anticipation and excitement that the resale announcements that we've made, we're going to continue to double down with those partners and go deeper with them, because our biggest partners are also yours. And we believe that combination together allows us to satisfy customer requirements. And while you're investing in Veeam, it's also a further investment in some of the partners that are most strategic to you. I think you know this if you've worked with us for any amount of time, but our ProPartner program is literally one of the best in the industry. And what that should translate to you is a phenomenal opportunity to sell a very high profit solution that allows you to make substantial gross profit and retire your quota. And ultimately for us on this call, that's what it's about. And we want to continue to do that. I've been in IT for longer than I care to remember. This is the first product and solution that I've represented where, as I visit customers, as I travel around the Americas, meeting with some of Veeam's largest and most strategic clients, and then clients across all segments, the passion, the satisfaction, and the commitment that they have to the Veeam solution is unlike anything I've seen. And for many of you who have trusted advisor status with your clients, and they lean upon you to recommend a solution that's going to work, that's going to deliver as advertised, and will deliver value that's presented in the sales process, you can rest assured that if you sell a Veeam solution to your clients, it's one that they're going to be tremendously satisfied with. They're going to thank you for recommending, and you're going to make some money along the way. Lastly, and Kevin mentioned it, I'll repeat it, and I said it before, we know we're not the only game in town, but when you look at the maturity of Veeam, now in business for more than a decade, over 300,000 customers, yet still growing at a rapid rate, still introducing disruptive technology. Of all the choices you have, if you invest in Veeam, it's going to pay a massive return, and that's only going to continue to be enhanced as we deepen our partnerships with some of your largest partners as well. We thank you for voting with and for Veeam, for partnering with us. We ask you to continue to do so, and I think it'll pay off in a huge way through the second half of 2018 and beyond. Thanks for just these few minutes today. I look for forward to seeing many of you as I travel across the Americas and see you at various events. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn the call over to John Metzger, our VP of Global Product Solutions.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Great. I love the message. The Pittsburgh reference aside, love the Steeler reference. love to see the momentum and what's coming in H2. Also, the great numbers that you shared as part of the data. Actually, one data point I wanted to share. In addition, you shared a lot of the internal data. One external reference point we wanted to share with the audience here is what IDC is showing in terms of Veeam and market share growth. So on the very next slide here, we've got a slide that comes from IDC, which shows market share growth for the second half of 2017. So if you're familiar with these market share data points, they typically come about 6 months after the close of the previous half year. So this data is fresh off the press from IDC and shows a continuing trend that Jeff was talking about in terms of that momentum, that 40 consecutive quarters of double-digit growth by Veeam. And you're seeing it play out not just in terms of what we're telling you, but also in terms of what the analysts are seeing out in the market. So two pieces on the slide. If you look at the left-hand side, look at that middle column where it says year-over-year growth. You see Veeam in the purple right in the middle, 28.7% year-over-year growth. And as Jeff mentioned, it's 2.5 times higher than Commvault, which is the closest competitor, and miles ahead of everybody else in terms of year-over-year growth on those competitors in the top three. In fact, Jeff mentioned Dave Russell. Dave comes from Gartner. They do similar analysis, and Dave, talking to him just last week, said their data looks exactly like what you're seeing here from IDC. The numbers might be slightly different, but in terms of order and growth, exactly the same. And he further qualified that to say that if you look at that Veritas and IBM, though they've long been leaders in this space, but they've seen year after year after year of market share decline, and they're losing that market to vendors such as Veeam, who are dramatically growing. So just wanted to share some of that data. If you look at the side on the far right, that purple circle that's all the way to the right and up in that leaders quadrant, that's Veeam, right? And what IDC is calling out here is that Veeam is the market leader in terms of momentum, and they've seen this growth year or quarter after quarter, year after year. So just wanted to share this with you again, if it's an external source, but just to give you sort of that confidence that you're working with a partner that has that momentum growth and is driving market share and sales into the market to help you grow your business. Very interesting data. I wanted to share that as a highlight. One of the key reasons, and Jeff touched on this, one of the key reasons that we are seeing this market growth is that Veeam continues to invest in the products, continues to expand our platform, and continues to bring new products to market. So the platform story, last quarter, when I had the pleasure of joining you all on the call, we talked about what you see here on the left-hand side, those blue boxes, and products that we brought to market in the first quarter of the year to help build out that hyper-availability platform. And this is that platform that's much more than just backup and recovery for virtualized workloads that are on premises. It's providing protection for all your customers' workloads, whether it's virtual, physical, or cloud. And you see that in what we're bringing to market. So again, last quarter, we talked about delivering recovery for Azure, providing availability orchestration for those workloads that if there's a disaster, you need to get them off site. Bringing additional storage integrations with Infinidat and Pure, and of course our visibility product in terms of management pack and driving additional support there. If you look on the right-hand side, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go through the slides here, but earlier this quarter in Q2, we delivered 9.5 Update 3 to our Veeam Availability Suite, and this is providing additional support for those latest platforms from Windows Server and Veeam vSphere. So very excited about that release. We'll talk more about Office 365 version 2, a great new enhancement new product that has some new enhancements in it that we're excited to talk to you about, and how you can use that to help provide provide greater protection for your customers. We just today delivered Veeam availability for Nutanix, and we'll talk more about that. And then coming later this quarter and then into later in the year, we have a couple additional releases coming with support or agents for AIX and Solaris, as well as 9.5 update 4, which you probably, if you were at VeeamON, you heard a little bit about both of those. We won't cover those today because they're coming later, but you did hear about both of those as part of VeeamON earlier in Q2. So good, let's start to walk through these and we'll give you an update as to what's new with these launches and how you can position them and help grow your business. So coming coming this month, actually, there's a couple releases on the next slide where we talk about update 3, which came in July, and we talked about that being the latest support for VMware vSphere as well as Windows Server. So that's been out for almost a month now, of opportunity for you to position that with your customers who are upgrading to the latest version of Windows Server or to vSphere, and make sure that they're aware that Veeam has support for their can protect their workloads, driving that protection for them. The next 3, Office 365 version 2, the Huawei plugin, and Veeam availability for Nutanix AHV all came out just this week. So tremendous opportunities for you to pick up that phone, have that conversation with your customers who are using Office 365, maybe have Huawei as part of their storage solution, or are using Nutanix to ask them how are they protecting workloads, leveraging those 3, and how can you as a trusted provider, how can you help them with Veeam to help give them the data protection they need. And then, of course, later in the quarter and later into the year, we have the support for agents for Unix and the IBM Solaris, as well as update 4 that'll be coming. So let's dive further into these upcoming releases. So Nutanix. So this is a great opportunity. Obviously, vSphere is the market leader. Hyper-V has good market adoption, but we're seeing increased adoption of Acropolis Hypervisor by Nutanix. We announced that we would be supporting this earlier in the year, talked about it at VeeamON as well, but now it is here. So if you have customers that are using Nutanix or that you're in the process of selling Nutanix to, this is a great opportunity to ask them about what are they doing to protect those workloads. What are they doing to protect applications or data that's hosted on AHV, and how can Veeam help them drive that data protection? The benefits for them are they get their data is protected against loss. You're helping to streamline the management for them so they get protection if they're continuing to use vSphere and Hyper-V, which most likely they are, as well as AHV. You get that protection for all 3 in one solution, and it helps them to be more productive, minimize that downtime. Again, it's available today. I'm really excited about this release as we bring it to market. In addition to giving you another benefit for selling to your customers, we make it easy for you to sell it with some very flexible licensing options. So what you see here on the slide is we have 2 subscription options for these new agents for AHV. You see that we offer 1 through 5 year licenses, depending on what the customer is interested in, what kind of commitment they want to make. If the longer they commit to, the more they lock in that price, so there's a real benefit for them. We also offer billing up front, so they can pay for their subscription all 5 years if they go that route, 2 years, 3 years, whatever they commit to, they can pay for that all up front. Or if they prefer to pay for it annually, that option's available for them as well. Obviously, if they pay up front, it's a slightly bigger discount for them. But again, this gives you the option and flexibility to offer them licensing that fits their needs, whether they are focused on CapEx from a budget perspective or OpEx for a budget perspective. You've got some options here to help them out. And both of these include production 24/7 support. All right, so as we help you from solving a new problem for your customer, as well as giving you flexible licensing options, we're also going to drive awareness, buzz, and interest that hopefully are pushing customers your way to help sell them Nutanix protection for them as they are leveraging the Nutanix platform. Doing that in a couple key ways. You see the customer webinar. We'll have that on August 15th, so definitely drive your customers or prospects to that. We have landing pages on Veeam.com where they can learn more about that. We've got e-cards that are for you or through you to deliver out to customers. And then, of course, it's available on the licensing portal for them to start to download today if they want to take advantage of that. Okay, so that's our support for Nutanix AHV. Again, really excited about that since it just came out today. Another product release that just came out earlier this week, on Tuesday actually, is the update to our backup for Microsoft Office 365. Now, this product's been in market for a little over a year now, and we've seen tremendous traction on it. And the reason is because there's a huge audience for this product. Right? There's 140 million users worldwide that are using Office 365, and we know that according to projections that 50 million more will be deploying the Office 365 in the next 6 to 12 months. So we're really, that market is exploding. And we're seeing it on our side as well. So in that a little over a year or so that the product's been out there, we have over 35,000 organizations that are already using the product. That's 4.1 million users. So we're having tremendous success in terms of adoption on the product, and we're looking to accelerate that here with this version 2, which we just released earlier this week. So what are some of the key challenges that customers are trying to solve with Office 365? Because we often get the question of, well, it's hosted, it's in the cloud, so the Microsoft is backing this up for me. Why would I need this? Well, they aren't backing it up, but they do have some retention, but it's still your customer's data, and they need to protect it to ensure that it's always available. So there's a couple key cases that we're solving, and that's what you see here on the slide, right? Accidental deletion of data. If they deleted it in Office 365, they want to have a backup of that so they can easily recover that. They may have retention policies, which aren't covered by Office 365, that they are special to the organization that they need to retain it. And of course, there's always the accidental or intentional deletion, malware, security threat, both from internal and external sources that you need to protect against. They may have legal or compliance. They may be in an industry that has special compliance requirements that they need to retain data for 7 years or whatever it may be for the customer. Office backup for Microsoft Office 365 helps them to meet that. And then, of course, wherever their deployments are, maybe they need to have some data backed up locally. Maybe they need to have some in the cloud. Whatever their internal requirements are, this helps to give that hybrid cloud approach flexibility for IT to be able to deliver that backup for critical data that's available through Office 365. So what are the key benefits to the customer? Office 365, as you've been familiar with for the last year or so, has been providing that backup and recovery for Exchange within Office 365. Again, it's the customer's data. They need to take control of that and protect it so they know it's available whenever they need it. So a key feature that's been available since release, and we're driving, as you saw, we've had a lot of success in terms of pushing that. But there are a couple use cases which we weren't delivering against in our previous solutions, which we will now moving forward with version 2. The first of those is protection for OneDrive. And so on the next slide, what you'll see here is that similar to what we've been doing with Exchange, we're delivering that backup and recovery for Office 365 OneDrive solution. So if you have customers that are using OneDrive, and this is OneDrive and SharePoint are the two biggest use cases that we've been asked for. So you probably do have customers that are using it or need it. OneDrive backup is now available and recovery is now available in version 2. So really excited about that. So again, if you have customers, great opportunity to call them, ask them if they're using Office 365, what are they doing, of course, for email backup, but what about OneDrive? And then on the next slide, what are they doing for SharePoint, right? So many organizations are leveraging SharePoint for hosting internal information, internal sharing of data, and if that data gets lost or corrupted, they need a way to back it up and recover. It's critical to the business. So now by offering OneDrive and SharePoint support, again, two big use cases that our customers have been asking for, we can now offer a more complete solution for Office 365 that gives you more value. The key, also one other key point here, is that we did not increase the price. So they get OneDrive and SharePoint support for the same price as they were getting for Office 365 previously. So really excited about this release. And then the last benefit is that we've just made it easier, right? So as we've gone from version 1 to version 2, we've simplified through wizards and deployment simplification to make the experience much more streamlined for the customer. Veeam's been known for ease of use, and that's constantly what we're focused on so that the customer has that good experience. As Jeff mentioned earlier, satisfaction stays high. They come back and they buy again. So really excited about this release. Good opportunity for you to go out and tell your customers who are using Office 365 about added value you can bring to them and help protect their Office 365 based workloads. Okay, so one other announcement we wanted to tell you about. You know Veeam, we've done a lot of integration with various storage vendors. We have a tremendous ecosystem of storage vendors that we integrate with to help solve three key use cases, and you see that here on the slide. First of all, if they are looking to reduce they want to do daily backups, but they are looking to reduce the impact of that on their production environment. They can now back up directly from a storage snapshot, which helps reduce impact on IT and production systems. Key benefit for them, and we've offered that for a couple years now through our backup from storage snapshots. Another key benefit we deliver is removing any disruption from a restore perspective, so they can recover exactly what they need. So that Explorer from those snapshots, that backups that they create of their snapshots, we make it easy for them to find the data that they're looking to restore, extract that, and restore it back into production. And then because they are creating a backup of that snapshot, they're able to leverage that data in a walled environment, so a virtual lab or a data lab where they can test within that environment without impacting production servers, such as doing things like testing patches before they release it to make sure that it doesn't have a negative impact on the business, making sure changes that they roll out don't have a negative impact from a compliance perspective. So real benefits here that we deliver to those storage vendors by integrating into those storage environments. So if you have a customer that's using HPE, Dell, Cisco, Lenovo, IBM, any of a long list of storage vendors, Pure, Infinidat, a long list of storage vendors that we integrate with that you can take advantage of. So if your customers have bought storage from any one of those vendors, great opportunity for you to talk about how Veeam can help them by backing up more frequently, reducing the impact on their production storage, as well as giving them faster recovery, which will all be requirements for them. So these integrations have been out for several versions now. We're excited, as you may have seen, we've really accelerated the vendors, how quickly we're bringing these to market, and the vendors that we're doing this with. Excited now to introduce that we have just released this week integration with Huawei. So on the next slide, what you'll see here is it's a good opportunity for you to talk to your customers that are using Huawei. Now, maybe they don't have a large deployment in the U.S., but it's a multinational company and they do have Huawei servers abroad, or if they are using it in the U.S., whatever the situation may be, you now know that you've got a solution with Veeam that if Huawei is part of their environment, you're providing the benefits of our storage integration with them through that integration with Huawei. Again, released just this week. You see that the product is live. There's information available on the website for folks that want to get more information. So tremendous opportunity. Again, reason to pick up the phone, ask them what they're using from a storage perspective, and how you can help them protect their data on those storage servers. All right, so the last thing, I'll go through these fairly quickly. There's a couple offers that we wanted to share with you. Most of these are continuing over from what we had in Q2, so you'll probably be familiar with them. The first one is that we continue to offer our Agent and Office 365 3-month free trial. So this gives your customers the opportunity to try our Agents and Office 365 products for 3 months. Hopefully they fall in love with it, and then they want to continue to use it, which would drive a purchase opportunity or a sales opportunity for you, leveraging this 3-month production license. So you see all the information here on the slide. Definitely recommend that if you have a customer, again, who's interested in Office 365, but not quite ready to buy, or for agents for Windows and Linux servers, workstations, a great opportunity for you to make this available to them. Similarly, if you have a customer that is backing up to the cloud, particularly AWS, you may be aware that Into.ws is a part of Veeam, and they offer their Cloud Protection Manager, which protects workloads in AWS. We're offering a 3-month trial as well as a $250 credit to AWS for customers who may be interested in trying that out as well. Okay, and then if we go to the next slide, we just wanted to share a couple key pieces that are available for you today to start to go out and have conversations with your customers or to drive opportunities for potential leads. So there's 4 key things that we wanted to share with you on the very last slide. One was around Office 365 and what's available to you in terms of on the ProPartner portal for you to be able to promote the products, as well as that version 2 that we just shared more information information about. The second column that you see here is the integration with Veeam and NetApp, and a whole set of materials there for you to land that better together message with Veeam and NetApp and how we can help them better protect data leveraging their NetApp infrastructure. Blake's about to talk to you here about competitive offers or competitors in our space, but we also have information available through the 7 reasons not to renew their legacy backup, a whole set of competitive information and 10 reasons not to documents that are available on the website. Great opportunity for you to have a conversation with your customer about what are they using now, what are they looking for from their data protection, and how can Veeam help. And then that last box on the far right, as you know, Veeam has introduced our intelligent data management messaging to help tell that story around the platform and the 5 stages of intelligent data management. Coming in August 10th, we're going to have a campaign in a box that will have everything that you see here in terms of banner ads, social media, emails, success stories, and others that you can leverage with your customers and prospects to start that conversation around intelligent data management and how you and Veeam can help. All right, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Senior Manager for Competitive Intelligence, Blake Rantham, who's going to give you a competitive update.
Thanks, John. Much appreciated. And you mentioned the pace of innovation. I'm talking about the Huawei integration, bringing them into the fold around the new storage alliances. It's that pace of innovation really that allows Veeam to keep up with our legacy competitors, keep up with our upcoming kind of new guy competitors, and then continue to destroy them in the market whenever is needed. So specifically around legacy backup tools, we see specific options or we see specific capabilities around agent-free backups. We see information around support for VMware and Hyper-V, and my screen just went away, so unfortunately I'm not able to see what you guys are seeing. Let me see if I can. We'll just clear that up. We'll just talk about whatever it is I think is on screen. So capability-wise, Veeam's been able to really exceed the market when it comes to competing against legacy guys. And those legacy guys are ones that that John mentioned earlier when talking about IDC. I won't name any individual ones, but they're the ones that you're used to selling, right? They're the ones that you're used to quoting renewals for and maintenance for, but probably not used to quoting new license revenue or bringing in new opportunities because they haven't really innovated that much. They haven't really brought new capabilities to market. So when we talk about things that we invented, instant VM recovery, and we talk about file level recoveries and the capabilities that Veeam has brought with alliance partners and storage mechanisms and being able to back up things incredibly quickly and restore things incredibly quickly from a feature perspective, we're far exceeding the capabilities of those legacy backup tools, and we're able to beat them in the market whenever we come across them for the most part. But I've been around Veeam for a little while, and I've seen the competitive landscape kind of start to shift. I've seen the market dynamics start to shift a little bit, and there's this new breed of competitor that starts creeping up that isn't necessarily considered a legacy competitor or considered a new competitor, but it's almost a callback to the very early days of backup, and I'm referring to the purpose-built backup appliance. Those new vendors that are coming out with new purpose-built backup appliances, and for you folks that haven't been around very long, purpose-built backup appliances go back to all the way to 1999. Avamar, I believe, is the first ever to come out with something in 1999. And really, they've just updated the model. They've put some fancy SSDs and some new messaging and a new interface around the appliances they're able to offer. And they're going to market with it and trying to be successful. So there's a couple of ways that Veeam differentiates itself beyond our legacy competitors and our kind of upcoming competitors, the purpose-built backup appliances. My screen's back up. I won't go into all of these, so we don't really have time to go into all of them. I'll talk about a couple here, and you can kind of read on the screen what's interesting to you. But around deployment models, if you think about the way that legacy solutions are deployed, typically they're software-based, right? There are going to be some myriad components that have to be deployed. Sometimes they'll have an appliance that goes along with them. But typically it's individual agent for an application, individual agent for an operating system, maybe different scripts or different hardware or software devices that have to kind of all work together to create a unified system that is going to do specific things. And more often than not, especially with some of the legacy competitors that we see, those systems were not created to really talk to each other, right? They were brought in through acquisition. There are some competitors out there that have 12 or 13 different data protection solutions, and they didn't actually build any of them. They were all brought in through acquisition, and they were all kind of just bundled together in one SKU. And, you know, some customers are willing to look at that and say, okay, it's a single vendor solution, but quite honestly, it isn't. So on the legacy side, we've got that kind of set up, but these new guys, these new deployment models that we typically see are more hyper-converged appliances. They're more 4-node boxes and a little 2U chassis, but they use commodity hardware. They use stuff from Supermicro or from Intel. And while those solutions are perfectly fine, the prices that they charge for them, and I'll talk about TCO here in a second, are not fine, given the type of hardware and the capabilities of the hardware that it provides. They're typically deployed on premises or in the cloud. The primary use case for a lot of these still today is backing up on premises workloads, whereas Veeam is starting to make that shift as we see the market dynamics shift to more native cloud-based data protection, because that's what people are starting to do. If you're starting a business today, you're likely not going to go buy a bunch of servers and a bunch of storage and license Windows and do all that. You're going to start deploying stuff in AWS or Azure, and you need a way to protect those workloads. You need a way to protect your SaaS-based workloads, meaning Office 365 and Salesforce and other kind of things. So there's kind of this broken use case for them, and I think Veeam's more complete platform story is a little bit more resonant with those particular customers. Around affordability and TCO, if you think about the growth of data, if you think about the way that Gartner talks about data doubling every 3 years, that's now almost shifted to increasing 3 times every 2 years. And before long, data will double every year, and then every 6 months, and then every 3 months. How are you going to go about licensing a solution or continuing to justify a solution that is licensed based on capacity? You know, as capacities continue to grow and as the requirements on data and people are doing more with data continue to grow, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to continue on with these legacy licensing models. And some are starting to shift away from that, but many are really digging their heels in and saying, this is how we make money on these renewals. We're going to continue to do it. One good kind of thing about them is the CapEx costs are already incurred, right? So you're selling maintenance renewals into these folks because they've already spent a vast amount of money over the last 10, 15, 20 years on the main licensing for the software. So there's this sunk cost involved, and often it's more expensive to go in and replace that entire solution with a new solution from any vendor. But we've got some ROI calculations and a TCO tool that'll help you really sell that value to the customer. On the other side, on the flip side, you've got an incredibly high cloud cost that goes along with the nature of the commodity appliances. So just for fun, I did a little exercise where I looked at the kind of mid-range model, the 96 terabyte, I believe it was, model of one of these newer purpose-built backup appliances. And I looked at what they were charging for it is, you know, $250,000 or whatever it was, but without any kind of maintenance or without any kind of additional features. And I went and looked at the exact hardware, went to Supermicro and said, can you build me a server that looks exactly like this? Exact same chassis, exact same memory and CPU and disk and network card and everything. The total cost came out to about $18,000. And that's just me wanting to buy one. You can imagine what kind of discounts they're getting buying in bulk. So these guys are trying to sell you $18,000 for the hardware for $250,000, and your customers aren't buying it, right? That means 90+% of this entire solution that they're selling you is software, right? The hardware is almost secondary. So that software better do every single thing on earth that customer needs it to do. And quite honestly, at this stage, you know, these are still new companies that are starting from scratch and don't have a lot of historical capability. They simply don't. And customers are not dumb, and they're figuring out that these purpose-built backup appliances existed in 1999 for a reason, and they stopped existing for a while, and now they're trying to make a comeback. It's an interesting little experiment there. So how you make money on this, and this is kind of why we're all here, right? Is to make money. If you've got customers that are not cost constrained, in other words, the ideal customer, right? They have a problem, they need to go buy a solution for it or figure out a solution for it, and whatever it costs is whatever it costs. Like, we love those kind of customers, right? Veeam can typically drag 3 to 5 times the value of the Veeam deal in Veeam Alliance hardware attached to it. So you don't have to settle for the commodity nature of the existing purpose-built backup appliances. You don't have to settle for this $15,000, $18,000 of the hardware. When you can build a solution using one of our alliance partners with HPE, with Dell EMC and their data domain product, with Exagrid, with Quantum, with basically anything, you can go build an entire all-flash backup repository that's going to be incredibly performant compared to the purpose-built backup appliance, and you can do it for a lot less money. So that helps customers in those situations, and you can make quite a bit of money selling Veeam along with those alliance partners. But then on the other side, you've got these customers that are probably, unfortunately, more likely your normal customers, where they're very cost constrained. They have a budget for something and they have to stick within that budget, right? You've got $100,000 to go buy a backup solution. I can either spend $100,000 on the entire backup solution by purchasing a purpose-built backup appliance, or I can spend maybe 25% of it on buying Veeam licenses. Now I've got $75,000 as a customer to go spend somewhere else, right? To apply to a higher margin project down the road, from networking gear to professional services or high margin software of some kind. So you can kind of drop that hint and be that trusted advisor to your customer and really kind of put that value in value added reseller, right? Customers really love when you save them money because it allows them to take on projects that they weren't going to be able to take before. And they're able to do this because Veeam doesn't really care about the hardware, right? We partner with all those great alliance partners that I talked with before, but if they want to repurpose existing hardware, that's perfectly fine. We can use 2, 3, 5-year-old storage for the Veeam backup repository and the proxy servers and all of that fun stuff. And you provided this great value to your customer by saving the money and getting another project under their belt. And hey, by the way, they get a better solution with Veeam than they typically would get with a more legacy data solution or a purpose-built backup appliance. So just to kind of come full circle, we talked about Dave Russell a little bit. We talked about the Magic Quadrant. We talked about Gartner a little bit. Veeam is obviously right there and the far right quadrant of the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is 2017's version. A lot of your kind of C-level contacts within your accounts, this is the very first thing they pick up when they're referring to any type of new technology, when they see a need for bringing something else in-house, whether that's networking or some SaaS provider of some kind or a data availability solution. The very first thing they pick up is the Gartner Magic Quadrant. They read the research on Gartner and they understand where the leaders are. And honestly, it's rare that they're going to pick anyone outside of that leaders quadrant. Veeam's been there 4 years in a row. They will continue to move up and to the right as long as the Magic Quadrant continues to be published. And this is all kind of public information that you're able to really, lean on and use to validate the effectiveness of a Veeam solution when talking about Veeam or talking about anything with your customers. So that's my time. With that, I'll throw it back to Kevin. He'll talk about some things that are coming up next and offer some closing comments. And with that, Kevin.
Great. Hey, thanks, Blake, and thanks to the messages from Jeff as well as John. I mean, it's just fantastic momentum in the business, unbelievable innovation, and in continuing to distance ourselves from competitors. It doesn't mean that we take any of them lightly, by the way, but we're confident that we've got everything that we need to go out and beat them and help us to jointly make a lot of money doing so. Okay, so we're going to take you down the final bits of information here, and we'll start with what's next, because we've got a lot of industry events that are coming up here within the quarter, and Veeam is going to be well represented at all of them. And we understand that. Well, Okay, I thought we had the industry events coming up first, but let me jump into this because this is even more exciting. We have introduced what we are calling the Big Deal Incentive Program, and this program is meant to encourage our ability to uncover and close large opportunities collectively with all of you. This is open to all silver, gold, and platinum Veeam partners. And it's something that we have that is going to run throughout the remainder of this calendar Q3 quarter. And I'd ask and encourage you to reach out to your partner manager, your Veeam partner manager. If you're not familiar with this program, it is a fantastic way to not only uncover opportunities, which we will pay you for, but then to close opportunities, which will be an even larger payout on the back end. It's significant, it's aggressive, and the reason is that we are out to take market share, and we want all of you incentivized not only to make what is already a very nice and healthy margin when you close Veeam business to begin with, but we want to encourage you to go out and look for those larger opportunities that sit out there as well, and know that you will be paid handsomely both on the front end because of how aggressive we are there, but on the SPIF incentive as well. You need to work with your Veeam representative to sign the big deal form to make sure that your company is signed up to participate. But then let's just go crazy. It's a fantastic way to make a great deal of money. Here's what I was expecting to see first. My fault. Okay, so industry events that are coming up, and like I stated, Veeam is going to be well represented at all of these events. Of course, we've got VMworld coming up next month at the end of the month in Las Vegas. For all of you who have attended VMworlds in the past and have participated in Veeam's participation in VMworld, you know how much of a splash that we make, not only on the floor at the booths around the city itself, but also with our legendary Veeam party that occurs on the Wednesday night. So I'd really encourage all of you to make sure that you engage with your Veeam counterparts while we're all out at VMworld together. Next up is Microsoft Ignite. That's going to be at the end of September. You again will see a very large presence from Veeam at that event. Please make sure that you reach out to your Veeam counterparts on that event as well. And then finally, with NetApp, in October, we'll be back in Las Vegas. Of course, the significant resale agreement that we have in place now with NetApp, and you're going to see some more exciting announcements to come in that partnership in the coming weeks and months as well. So we will be out in Vegas again at the end of October. All right, so now we get to the all-important call to action. Look, learn the alliance plays. The announcements that John just highlighted today, incredible. I mean, the work that we're doing with Nutanix, the SharePoint and OneDrives being added to our O365 product, that's game changing. Partners and customers alike have been saying, once you get OneDrive and SharePoint, this thing's going to explode. We've already had fantastic success with the product itself, but this is going to take it to an all new level. You need to be having these conversations with your vast Microsoft customer base, because if you're not, somebody else is. This is something that they need. Many of the customers are unaware that their O365 is not inherently backed up. So you've got to bring this opportunity to the table. It is low hanging fruit. Nutanix, unbelievable momentum in the marketplace on their own, and they're working very closely with Veeam. Just so you know, our end user teams are paired hitched at the hip in going into a ton of accounts. You need to take advantage of that. NetApp, Cisco, HPE, the VMware, the list is long, and it is no longer just we get along well. We have shared offerings that our customers are demanding, and they're much better solutions together than some of these purpose-built storage devices that are out there. That momentum will stop. And we're going to make, we'll be out there to help it stop even sooner. So great information from Blake Grantham at the end here around the competitive. Make sure that you get yourself familiar around those talk tracks, but the alliance plays are key, and you're only going to see. Unfortunately, there's a couple of things that we can't even talk about, but there's announcements that are coming around the corner on top of what you already heard about today with some of our other alliance players and additional announcements around the very familiar alliance players that you know that are just going to make Veeam and these alliance players even better than we are today. So it's incredible. Cloud, that business doubles every year for us. It's a great opportunity for you to get involved in things that your that your customers are asking about. We discussed agents. We now do physical. Everybody should be aware at this stage, as well as the virtual agents. We've got O365, which we discussed. Take advantage. Those are hot opportunities, and they're a lot of times it's not what was originally sold into your customer base when you sold Veeam. Go back, have these discussions. It's low-hanging fruit. Align with our segment sales teams. We have a dedicated sales force out in every market in which you compete, and they run the gamut from SMB all the way up to enterprise, SLED, Fed, commercial. Get engaged with them. Our only route to market is through you. So know that working closely with your segment sales teams at Veeam is the way that you need to align. It's happening every day. Jeff talked about it. John talked about it. Blake talked about it. The legacy backup solutions are being replaced. Let's be the ones to do it together. Veeam is winning at these customers every day. Let's no longer be satisfied in just taking a renewal. Let's go out and get some net new license business. Legacy renewals eventually get turned over. So let's make sure that we're the ones to do it together. Aggressiveness. I preach it to our team all the time. It's how we differentiate ourselves, and it's aggressive in a positive manner. Let's go out, be aggressive, think big, challenge your Veeam sales teams to support you. I promise from my level, Jeff, Peter, everybody is willing to help. Ask your team for help. We will be there right at your side to make sure that we're successful, to make sure that we win, to make sure your customers are beyond satisfied, and we'll do it together. And I just want to wrap with what we always say. It's a partnership. And without you, we cannot win. And we are fully committed to this partnership. Whatever it is that you need, we will do. Your success is our mission. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules. Hopefully you found it time well spent. And let's go out and close some business together. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you to everyone who was able to join the call today. A recording of today's call, along with the slides, will be posted soon on the homepage of our